Let's take a look at the balance of payments and how it adjusts under different exchange rate regimes. So let's recall that the balance of payments provides detailed information concerning the supply and demand for a country's currency. If the U.S. imports more than it exports, the supply of dollars is likely to exceed the demand in the foreign currency market, and this likely leads to depreciation of the dollar relative to other currencies. If the U.S. exports more than it imports, demand for dollars is likely to exceed the supply in the foreign currency market, and this likely leads to appreciation of the dollar relative to other currencies. So, how does the exchange rate adjust to eliminate the balance of payments deficit or surplus? So, let's look at a balance of payments deficit under floating rates. So let's say, for example, the correct price should be $1.75 per £1 sterling. So this happens to be the market for pounds sterling, and the correct market clearing price where demand equals supply is $1.75 to buy £1 sterling. Right now it happens to be $1.60. That is, buying pounds is quite cheap, so U.S. consumers will buy pounds sterling so they can buy British goods because British goods will be cheap relative to U.S. goods. And British consumers will not have a great desire to buy U.S. goods because they will be expensive relative to buying things in Great Britain. So what happens? When you're out of equilibrium, the natural thing is, in a floating rate system, is for price to simply rise in this case. That is, the price of pounds rises to $1.75. That's the equivalent of the dollar depreciating, or you can say the pound appreciated. So once that happens, it's going to be the case where foreign goods in Great Britain, won't be as cheap to U.S. consumers. U.S. goods won't be as expensive to British consumers, and therefore the trade deficit will be eliminated. Now let's see what happens under a fixed rate system. Okay, again, the correct price here is $1.60, but right now it's $1.75. In this case, right, we have the price is really too low, but it's the case where it can't adjust upward because of fixed rates. So what happens is that the government, the U.S. government, is going to have to engage in some sort of contractionary policy to eliminate the trade deficit. That is, they're going to have to shift the demand for British pounds back. So they could do that by monetary policy, for example, increasing interest rates. They could do that by raising taxes or reducing government spending. And what's going to happen is it's going to drive it back, drive the price per pound sterling back to the fixed rate of $1.60. All right, so it's not allowed to adjust upward. We're going to have to engage in some policy to reduce this deficit. Let's look at the case where we have a balance of payments surplus under floating rates. So again, the correct price should be $1.75, but it happens to be $1.85. It's too high, which makes the supply of pounds greater than the demand for pounds. In this case, in the U.S., we have a trade surplus. Again, when you're out of equilibrium, if you have floating rates, rates will just adjust downward to the market clearing price of $1.75 to buy £1 sterling. Right? In this case, the dollar appreciates. An appreciating dollar makes British goods cheaper in the U.S. and makes U.S. goods more expensive in Britain, and therefore you eliminate the trade surplus. And let's look at the final case here. let's say that it's the case where we have the price of the pounds is too high at $1.85. Okay, it can't fall through expansionary. It can't fall because of floating exchange rates. So the government's going to have to engage in expansionary monetary policy in order to increase the demand for pound sterling to get the price to rise. Okay, so it's not going to appreciate, it's going to go back to what the market clearing price or what the fixed rate was at $1.85. Okay, $1.75 was really too low, so we're going to have some sort of expansionary policy like lowering interest rates, cutting taxes, or increasing government spending in order to eliminate this. So that's the difference. In the case of floating rates, the adjustment happens naturally. In the case of fixed rates, governments are going to have to engage in some sort of policy to get the demand for the foreign currency or for their currency to be in line with the market clearing price.